But we're getting into a conversation about things that perhaps you need to dig a little bit deeper to actually find. Alice Muthama is the director at Rockland Jewelers. And you ask, okay, so what are we doing? CT getting another ring for his wife? Are we looking at getting... No, that's not what we're doing this hour. But there's your plug, CT. So Alice is here this morning, and we're discussing something that I think for a lot of moments isn't really looked into in terms of Kenyans who are doing work in this sector, who are business people in this sector, and what it means for them. Usually, when we talk about gemstones and precious stones and things like that, it's usually of an extractive nature where external parties come in and for whatever licenses they have or requirements that are made of them, they're now able to do business and take these precious stones or metals outside the country. So now Kenyans taking advantage of what is here in Kenya, but then there are certain guidelines or regulations that guide, obviously, the business. And those are some of the things that we'll be talking about this morning. And Alice Muthama, good morning to you and karibu sana.
Oh, morning. Good morning, everybody. And I'm really honored, and it's such a pleasure to be here this morning to just discuss about the gemstone subsector.
Right. Also, we're glad that you're here, and as we do that, as what we normally do on this show is that we welcome you in a situation room fashion. You are in the hot seat, but let's cool things down a little bit for you. CT goes around the continent every week. Don't ask me how he goes to a different African country every week. Use your imagination. And he comes back with a basket full of proverbs every week from a different country. So we'd like to share that one with you this morning. Tell us what you think about it and how you would interpret it. Does that work?
Sure.
Okay.
It works.
We are in the Republic of Rwanda.
Right.
This is a country that has many, many unique features. One of them is the car-free day. Imagine a day in a month where you don't see cars. Is that not a wonderful thing?
It is. Save the environment.
And the entire population is galvanized into doing a cleanup of their neighborhood. Is that not a wonderful thing?
I think so.
And unique too.
Yeah.
Because do you know of any other African country that has anything similar, not necessarily identical?
Car free in terms of vehicle? Nope.
No, a free day where you stop.
Don't use your vehicle.
Yes, and for a certain number of hours, everybody cleans up their neighborhood.
Well, I know in Nigeria, every first Saturday of the month, there's environmental sanitation. So you don't go out before 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and you're making sure that you're cleaning your environment, and, people are watching.
Who makes sure? Because in Rwanda, it is made sure you do precisely
No, it's made sure by the local government. Local government officials are there making sure you actually do it. First Saturday of the month.
And everybody is told out.
There are no cars on the road. You can't be out on environmental sanitation day. You can't be out. You must be cleaning.
See?
Yeah.
Okay. Good thing, isn't it?
Good thing.
Very good.
The sharpness of the tongue defeats the sharpness of the warrior. That's the proverb.
Right then. I think what that means is there's power in words. The power of the tongue has the ability to build up or to destroy. And therefore, your words have the ability to can do a lot of harm, even more than physical harm at times. In the same way, you can use it for good. And so it is the power of words. And so one must always be careful what they say in the platforms that they say them in, whether it's in a home setting, whether it's in a school setting, church setting, all settings. Really must be careful with your words. They have the ability to build or to destroy. And I think in the Bible, there's certain verses that sort of speak to the same thing as well.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. And there are references to blazing fire. There are references to snake bites. There are references to, and all of them lead to the tongue.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Your interpretation is excellent.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so Alice, let us enter into this world of the mining sector with you.
Yeah.
The gemstones subsector is what you call it.
Yes.
Take us into this world and what exactly it looks like, because we often think that, gemstones, okay, is for people who come from outside. They have a conversation with government, they're allowed to mine, and then they leave. Walk us into this industry and what exactly is happening in here.
Okay, so I think for me, one of the most interesting things is the realization of how little information is out there in terms of what Kenya has to offer within the gemstone subsector. God, in His wisdom, found it fit to put quite a number of gemstones within Kenya, right? And so we have what you call the Mozambican belt, and it runs from Ethiopia right through Tanzania. Now, within that belt is where you find the occurrence of gemstones. So the counties that you find gemstones in, you have Taita Taveta, which I think has been the one that has been mostly, I guess, exploited, or where a lot of work has gone in. Baringo County, Turkana, Samburu, Isiolo, Kitui as well. So there are quite a few counties that have gemstones.
Yes.
Taita Taveta being the one that's most famous because a lot of extraction or mineral mine or gemstone mining has happened there. The gemstones that you can find in Kenya, of course, is ruby. Again, Taita Taveta, you have ruby and Baringo. You have aquamarine. You have amethyst. You have sapphire, which is very, very good quality sapphire coming from up north. Iolite. So quite a few number of gemstones coming out from Kenya. Extraction of it, I would say there's a lot of artisanal and small scale mining happening, and very few large scale or medium to large scale gemstone mining operations, with Rockland Kenya Limited being one of the main mining operations for gemstones extracting ruby. And then you have Bridges Exploration, who are mining salvarite, or were. Right now they're not doing much exploration. And then everything else is very much small scale and artisanal.
What is it that makes a piece of rock a gemstone?
Okay, that's very technical, because it's all about it's the geology of the area and the different I guess typology of rocks that then over many millions and millions of years, I'm giving out layman's, have compressed and interacted with each other to create this gemstone.
So what gives it value? It's rock. It's a stone.
It's the beauty of it, because, for example, I will speak about the ruby, because that's what our parent company mines. So you'll find you have the ultramafic rock, you have the pegmatite rock in the middle of it, because of the interaction of the two. The ruby, over millions and millions of years, has then crystallized and formed. So it is the beauty and the clarity of that rock, and the fact that it is colored, right? And it is the beauty is it's the color and the clarity of the rock. That is what gives it its value.
Let's talk about ruby. Yes. Must it be red?
Not okay. So depending on where a ruby is extracted, the color will vary a little bit. For example, before rubies in Africa were, discovered around the 70s, a lot of extraction and, what you'd find in the Queens, it's all really, they call it pigeon blood red. So it's a very deep, dark red color. Rubies from Africa are more pink in color. So they have a pink-purple hue. And that will vary whether you're down in Mozambique, whether you're in Taita Taveta, whether you're in Baringo. The hue will tell you, you'll be able to tell which sort of area of Africa you're sort of getting this ruby from.
Can I assume that when you talk about, because we're talking about rare minerals here, aren't we?
Yes.
So it means they're not easy to find.
Yes.
Okay. So then who determines the value? Who determines that? Well, since it's ruby, and since it's been condensed by God knows what over God knows what period, then what we will charge you, because I know it's not measured in kilos, it's measured in carats.
Yes.
You will then, if you want this little piece of, just a portion of, just a teeny little portion of it, this is what will charge you. How does that work out?
Oh, okay. So we have, of course, there's the international markets, and essentially they're the ones that kind of set the pricing on this. And there's 4 things that a gemstone would be sort of graded against in order to get the value of it, and that's the color, the cut, the clarity, and then the carat weight. That's what really determins. The study of gemstones is actually called gemology, and it's unfortunate we don't have very many gemologists in Kenya.
Do we have any institution that offers a study gemology?
Gemology, no, none.
Okay.
We have geologists, we have mining engineers, but we don't have gemology being offered in any institution. So essentially, if you want to be able to adequately engage in this platform, there's people like myself who are born into it, and then of course you then go and study, but all courses would literally be outside of country. So you're talking about Thailand, the States, that sort of areas.
So when we talk about this sector that is there, one would assume that with the lucrative way it looks and how important it is, especially to the global space, one would assume that it should be bigger than what it is in the country. Why is it that the mining of gemstone continues to be hush-hush? Only a few know about it.
That's a very good question. I don't think it's hush-hush deliberately. I wouldn't say so. Here's the thing. It's high risk, and it's high risk, but and then it's also high gain. Okay, but then also it's the knowledge, it's the capacity to extract, it's the knowledge to know where to go, how to follow. Because when you're extracting gemstones, usually would be following a vein. Right, so imagine
what's a vein?
Exactly, like the one in your actual body or an artery that leads to the what you would call a pocket, and a pocket is where you find the most valuable of the gemstones, right? So you follow this vein. Imagine from the very top of the earth, as you extract, as you go down, you follow this vein, and you get this pocket of gemstones. So traditionally, or not traditionally, even now, you find because we have mining, we have geologists, but for artisanal scale miners, it's the cost of hiring a geologist or even a mining engineer to come and to come and either help or assist and tell you this is how your extraction should be done, this is how you follow the vein, this is like an actual study of the area, so sort of make sure that your extraction is effective. That the cost of that is kind of really restrictive, right? So you find that a lot of gemstone or artisanal miners and small scale miners, they rely on the locals who know the area, and it's literally it's kind of like I wouldn't call them the local. How do you call the local? Not local experts, like the guys who know the area.
Yes, who know the area.
They are
experts.
And they are experts, yes, because they understand the geology of the area. But what they wouldn't be able to do is now definitively guide and say, if we find this is the best way to then get to this pocket.
Okay.
Right. So you spend a lot of time extracting, and sometimes it can be 3, 4, 5, 6 months before you get even that 1, 2, 3, 4 gram stone, and it's rough, that you can then get market for.
So you can spend 6 months
3 to 6 months
attempting to extract a 1 gram stone.
Yeah, because yes, exactly. Because as you extract, as you're following the vein, perhaps depending on the mining area, you may find that you get to use some usable material as you go along, or you find you're not getting any usable material as you go along until you really get to the pocket.
Okay, are deposits of these gemstones, of these precious stones, significant enough for Kenya to be on the map when it comes to countries that would then provide? I mean, some things we look at them and we hear them. Diamonds, we are in Botswana, no brainer. We hear gold, we're in Ghana. We hear Tanzanite. Obviously, we know where we are with that and other precious stones. So where is Kenya? I mean, just from your practice and understanding, are they significant enough for you to say, okay, well, this is something that would contribute significantly to Kenya's purse, essentially? Yeah,
definitely so. I mean, here's the thing. The global market for rough gemstones is over $2 billion. And this is rough. We're not even talking about it being value added, right? Salvarite, or Kenya, is a primary producer of Savarite in the entire world. So you have a few deposits in Tanzania because it crosses the border a little bit, but predominantly Kenya is the primary producer of Savarite.
How is it different from Tanzanite?
The color.
Okay.
Same stuff, different color.
Same stuff, different color, different hardness. If you study the gemstone and the composition of it and the chemical composition of it, you'll find it will be different. Again, it is a geology of the area and the rocks found within the rocks found within that area that will determine the composition of that gemstone. So
how different is it from emerald?
So an emerald is more darker green. Our Savarite is more luminous green.
So Tanzanite
is blue.
It's blue.
But you can get pink tanzanites as well.
Okay, Savarite
Is green.
Emerald
Green.
So the hue comes in here.
The hue comes in here because emeralds, and again, emeralds from Zambia are completely different from emeralds from Colombia as well. Again, it's the hue, it's the composition of the gemstones. So labs would be able to test a gemstone and say to you, this particular stone is from Tanzania, or even is a Savarite from Kenya, or this is an emerald from Colombia, and this is an emerald from Zambia.
There's a question that do ask that I'd like us to go back to.
Okay, go on.
This vein,
The vein.
this artery,
Yes.
okay? The deposits, the quantities, the possible value.
Yes.
Is it of an industrial nature?
Industrial?
Industrial in terms of quantity.
Quantity, yes, for sure. I think so, for sure. And this is the other thing. So this information is based on the companies that are extracting and how long they have been extracting for. So if you look at the two main companies that I would speak of that are sort of the medium to larger scale gemstone mining companies, they've been extracting for about maybe 20 odd years.
Okay.
Production is ongoing, and it continues to come. Again, in terms of the value of it and for it being a key contributor to the country's economy and GDP, definitely. Don't forget, we don't have proper data on what is actually on the mineral resources we have. Some have been commissioned, but they're not readily available, not to local investors, unfortunately. It takes a while to get this information. So if you want to get into the subsector yourself, you have to do your own surveys and you have to do your own reports, etc.
I find it strange, though. I find it really strange, though, because I am looking at the floriculture. The flower industry.
Yes.
Okay? So much is known about the flower industry.
Exactly.
So much. Where it goes, how it goes. We even know how much it brings
Indeed.
to the country.
Yes.
In great detail.
Exactly.
Okay? Those flowers and the growing of it is something that was begun from scratch.
Indeed.
We don't naturally have roses. Somebody has to
Exactly.
bring it from somewhere to plant it here.
Indeed.
Naturally, we also don't have daffodils, do we?
Naturally?
No, I don't think so.
Not naturally.
We
not
do have
naturally.
water lilies. The point I'm making is the industry that you belong to, unfortunately, those rocks have been with us
Was long.
for as long as
Kenya has been.
We've
no,
existed.
as the earth has existed.
Yeah.
Okay?
Very, very true.
And there's a value to it, clearly.
Yeah.
There's an entire industry. We even hear
Yeah.
of centers that deal with these things. And when you hear of the amounts of monies that are talked about,
It's huge.
if I just take a trip down south, mentally that is, of course, and I look at the industry that deals with this in the southern part of this continent, my goodness,
Yeah.
wealth, huge, enormous,
Yeah.
gigantic wealth was created by this industry.
Indeed.
And because of that, they were able to do fantastic things over time.
Yeah.
Now, here we're saying we have huge deposits, we have these minerals, and clearly the people working in that industry.
Yes.
But everything about it is more or less a whisper. You are the first person I've come across who is actually, yes, you are,
Oh wow. Okay.
who is actually talking about it, and yet we've heard of people who are in this business. Again, it's whispers.
Yes.
And when the government speaks about it, it's just about as opaque as you can be opaque.
Yeah.
why is it that this industry lacks clarity that it should have?
Well, I wouldn't say it's clarity. I think maybe it's just, and it's such a great thing that, I've been invited here, and I really do hope there's more, discourse of this nature around the gemstone subsector. Before the 2016 Mining Act, the Mining Act that we had and we were using as an industry was from 1940.
Yeah.
Before which year?
Before 2016, right? And so there was a lot of so we have different I guess industry bodies that kind of said look, we cannot be using a Mining Act from 1940 in 2016. And so we got this Mining Act of 2016, and then with it came all these regulations, etc. So I wouldn't say it's not is it really lack of clarity? I think it's a focus on the subsector as one that can contribute. It's the lack of, I guess, appreciation and understanding of the subsector, as well as capacitation in the subsector as well, right? So it's a myriad of things. So the people who do it are just focused on, you're running your business, you're focused on growing your business to meet your, to do your business to make it successful, right? As any other business person would do, right? And again, you lobby government and you talk to government or the different ministry that you need to speak to, because it changes sometimes with the environment. Now we're with the maritime, so it's never. I think it's only once that we've ever been given a ministry to ourselves. But at that point, we've still joined up with others.
Alice Muthama is a director of Gemstone. Can be calling it Rockland Jewelers, Rockland Jewelers, and we're looking into the gemstone subsector, you see, and looking at some requirements, some regulations, and saying, okay, so where are we going? 1940 to 2016, and now in 2025, what are we looking at that can actually maybe secure a number of things for this sector in Kenya? And as we look at some of those things, just looking at the years in which some of these things were put into place, and asking ourselves, okay, is this something viable for Kenya?
Yeah, so we've talked about the 1940 Act, then we have the 2016 revision of the same. But let's talk about the mining license and permit amendment regulations of 2023, which for the past, say, 2 weeks has been you've been having problems with that, which brings up the question, why would there be a problem when the government wants to regulate how mining is done in the country so that we get the maximum benefit to the people of Kenya? Why is it a problem with these specific regulations that are in place?
I don't think, I don't think the problem is I don't think as players in the gemstone subsector, we have a problem with regulation. Of course, regulation is good and it ensures everybody is operating within the law. I think the challenge comes in one over regulation, and I use that very use that terminology a bit sparingly, but I think also it's again because there seems to be a lack of understanding of the nature of the gemstone subsector. You find that even within the permits and the licensing fees, for example, it cuts across the board all minerals, right? And gemstones are a luxury product. It's not the same as your other industrial minerals, right? So the amount of time it takes you to extract and even find market for it would not be the same as you would do your other minerals, right? So of course there's that first concern. The second concern I think also is within the royalties that have been set, especially for the exploitation on rough gemstones. There was, in a public there was, interaction with State Department of Mining before these new regulations were put in place. And, as industry said, look, hang on a second, can we look at reducing, again, the royalty rate that is prescribed, for example, for the export of rough gemstones. Currently, it's at 6%, and then you add the mineral development levy, you're getting up to 7%, and all other little permits, and as you do your export. So that goes quite high. Don't forget, they've increased the mining license and permit fees to up to about 500,000 shillings. So even for a local investor, somebody who from that particular region who's wanting to get into the mining gemstone mining subsector, you find again it's quite restrictive. Don't forget, we've just mentioned that the data is not even there. Even as you're looking at exploration, you don't even know what it is that you're going to you might have an idea, but you'd still have to incur further costs by the time you're getting to proper extraction. So you find that again it's really capital intensive, and therefore it does lock out a lot of Kenyans from actually participating then within the subsector. When it comes to the export of gemstones, again, you have the regulations, and I think sometimes it's really the application of the regulations by the different again, using my words very carefully, we just spoke about this, how you use your words, and how the regulations are then being applied to industry. For example, it's something that we've raised with the State Department of Mining. The royalties regulations that came in, I think, October 2024, clearly state that if you're exporting a mineral, that you have 120 days from the last day of export of that particular month. So let's say today's the 21st of January, I do my export today. I have from the last day of this month in order 120 days in order to be able to pay the royalties, right? But currently what happens is if you do not pay upfront, though the regulations are very clear, you then are not then given your export permit. What does that do to a miner or a dealer who, after having this, is relying on that amount of time to be able to export their stone, get it to their client, let the client verify the material is of the, again, don't forget, we don't have gemologists here, so I'm sending my stone knowing it is this grade, it goes to my client, they have to verify, confirm, and then send funds back to me. When you're then made to pay out of pocket, what happens if then your material is then rejected and then you have to bring it back? Don't forget, they'll have classified that already as an export and a sale. So even to get your material back means you have to import it back, which is another costly affair. So the regulations are there and they're good, but I think one is the application of them, and again, it's understanding what does industry means, what ease of business or ease of doing business means within the subsector.
Yeah.
In terms of feasibility studies, I would wake up today and want to venture into a certain business, and first things to consider would be it is worth X amount, right? As the government now moves into with the new regulations, making sure that everything within the industry is streamlined, any feasibility studies on how much this subsector is worth for them to get into it?
Like I said, data is one of the things that we struggle with as a subsector. We don't have much of it, and any data that you have is with individual, probably parties that have done it within their specific mining claims. We had an engagement last week with State Department, and we raised the same issue. And myself amongst other industry players were like, honestly, truly, it does. The reports that you mentioned are not readily available to, like you said, if you wanted to get into the subsector, it definitely would be, you would have to commission your own studies to confirm for yourself, which again are costly.
Right.
Strange though. Strange, isn't it?
It is. Very. But I want to ask a question, and then maybe this kind of, you would imagine, what is the global or external demand for Kenya stone? Because I would imagine that would fuel internal policy to then be able to, get it out as much as possible, as it were.
Demand is there for as long as fashion exists and luxe products, demand is there. Here's the thing, within the gemstone subset or industry, you have international shows that happen Annually, without fail, say for I think when we had COVID, I think those are the only maybe 2 years that we didn't have these industry shows, and that goes from the United. So we start off with the United States, which is happening end of January, February. Then you have Bangkok, and then you have this Basel. There's shows in Europe, and the circuit goes around the entire year. And you can guarantee at every one of those shows that you go to, you will find Kenyan gemstones. You'll find the Johnstone ruby, you'll find Savarite, you'll find aquamarine from Kitui, you'll find amethyst, and all very good quality and all very good color, but predominantly it's Savarite and ruby. Which is what has really actually then been extracted to most significantly. Everything else is still very artisanal.
The government says it's getting into these regulations, trying to streamline everything because of the smuggling that is involved in the industry as well. As a stakeholder in this industry, I mean, how bad is smuggling denting your business in terms of credibility internationally, and how best can the government assist you address that problem?
So this issue of smuggling of gemstones comes because, don't forget, like I said, there's a lack of a market access, right? Especially for the artisanals and the smaller scale mines. When you have restrictive regulations when it comes to exports, etc., it means that, or even in renewal of licenses, it means if you have, let's say, Dennis, your gemstone dealer, and you have CT, he's a small scale miner. If you're not able to shift your product or get it to in Thailand, for example, because of just the things that I've mentioned, it means you're sitting with your product and if you're not shifting it, then you're not able to buy it from him. So then you find there's a kind of stagnation, right? So what happens if then Unda comes from Thailand or Sri Lanka, and she's like, wait, what's going on? Like, I needed this, I'll come to you, right? And then you'll then sell to me, for example, so that I can then go back, because then it's that unlocking that business chain, right? So what happens is you'll find some of these unscrupulous characters who will then come. They'll come on tourist visas, it's the truth, and then they'll just go down to Voi, and there you have lots of dealers and brokers, and because you're not able to export it at that point, then she will then take it and just cross through Tanzania, bada bing, bada boom. Again, we don't have gemologists. Even if you are carrying this 5 grams, nobody is able to say it is this or it is that, even at the border.
So this is what confuses me. I'm sorry to interject, but how do you regulate then a subsector for which you don't have the mechanisms for practice? You don't have the individuals. You don't have the individuals who, like you say, are supposed to measure. What are you?
Feasibility studies.
For feasibility study.
Actually,
how do you regulate?
You know who's being generous with that question?
City wants me to sound a little bit meaner.
No, not meaner. I mean, how do you have a subsector where the things you're asking don't exist?
This is it.
Yes.
It's like saying, I need you to make a pot of stew that has specifically chicken, but the chicken doesn't exist. There's no chicken.
Yes.
So how will you tell me that I'm demanding a pot of stew from you? This is the thing. With the regulations, you're saying you must do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Exactly.
And the infrastructure that is needed, it is your responsibility as government to provide.
Yes. And yet we have other subsectors which supposedly bring the country money. And all these things that we're talking about exist. That's why we know about them, because they exist.
Yeah.
Like the horticulture you talked about.
Yes.
You can pretty damn well say what you want about that. You can ask them to do 1, 2, 3 and it could be private sector that has insisted that this infrastructure then exists, but they've done that over time. But then it exists for you to make a demand.
Naivasha died at some point as a town.
Yeah.
Dead. Why? The road that passed Kijabe and went down, that road existed, but a new road was created. So people chose to go to Limuru around. They didn't go through Kijabe, and so they didn't go through Naivasha. Then floriculture flourished. The town got revived. Before you knew it, the hotels coming up around, the lake, blah, blah, blah. And as I said, the rest is history. The town is still alive and well. There is a county called Narok, okay? What Narok is known for is something called Lamara, okay? There are animals that we are told they run wild, okay? But people come from all over the world to see these. Now, I'm mentioning two. Let me mention a third one. The coast of Mombasa has beaches. People come from all over the world to go to those beaches. These counties have benefited very directly from these resources. Directly. Taita Taveta is poor.
Just mention them: Baringo, Turkana, Isiolo, Kitui, all of them.
Some of the poorest counties we have
Yes.
in this country.
Yet-
And yet, they are rich in mineral resource. Surely, you shouldn't even use the word rich. Just say they have a lot of mineral resource. And you see, for me, the question that begs to be asked is this perchance? And the answer, of course, is a resounding no. Somebody is benefiting from the lack of everything that this industry needs for it to thrive.
And you see, City, as well, just as we talk about that, remember that the government itself has declared tsavorite a strategic mineral. But they're declaring it a strategic mineral without having a feasibility study of knowing how much there is for us to benefit from it, for us to declare it a strategic mineral.
Let me ask you, how on earth did they determine it was strategic?
Thank you. If there is no data on it.
Yes, how? What is it that they use to inform them? It means they actually have data.
Have data.
It's just not.
being
Publicly
shared.
made public known. So the government seems to be in cahoots. Underline seems to be in cahoots with some big players in this industry who know what it is that is worth and how it benefits. And maybe not government. Certain people who have been in positions of authority and government, certain. And it is probably from one government to another, to another, to another. Because it can't be that you have a subsector that seems to have everything we're talking about that would make for a lot of wealth for the practitioners in it and for the counties in which these minerals are nestled. And yet the complete opposite is what we see. How?
See, I think for me, again, using my words very carefully here, here's what I would say. I genuinely think, and I think in the years that I have been in the industry, for the dealers who have been in industry and the few miners who have been in industry, I think what we face is a lot of frustration because of there's a huge lack of understanding and capacitation within the subsector. Because if you do not understand something, then you will think that this will work for this, that one size fits all, right? And that generally really truly is a problem that we have. It's a lack of understanding and capacity of the gemstone subsector and the gemstone value chain. What it means to prospect, what it means to explore, what it means to mine and extract, what it means to process, and then what it means to then value add and market. For example, we have Voi Gemstone Trade Center, noble effort, but how do you have a trade center that has no capacity, has no trained gemologists, has no trained cutters? For what purpose is it currently in it? There's the idea of it, but when you look at the actuality of it, right? And so again, it is understanding, and then it is trying to make a 2-year-old baby, a 2-month-old baby stand when they're not yet ready to stand.
You even hold up their head.
And hold up their head, right? So there needs to be a lot of support, one, from the part of the exploration and extractive sector, right? In the same way, how in agriculture you have agricultural extension officers who are deployed to go and help, etc. We have so many let's just talk about what we already have. Geologists who government, State Department of Mining can engage and send out to all these counties that you've mentioned to help anybody who wants to get into the subsector to actually figure out how is the best way for me to extract this, right? Secondly, then it comes to licensing, right? And ease of licensing. For example, and one of the things that we had a discussion with the State Department of Mining last week was how even though you have the regulations, and I've mentioned there's even regulations on renewal of licenses. For example, now there rests the authority within the State Department of Mining and the Cabinet Secretary, which we hope we are able to have this discussion with him to add on other things. For example, one of the statements that was issued was that we're not going to be able to renew your mineral dealer's license unless one, you prove that you have done sufficient business, and I'm like, according to who? And that's not also in the regulation. And secondly, as a dealer, that you have gotten letters from each and every supplier, again, not in the regulations, to say that you're going to buy from them. And I'm like, hang on a second, I'm a gemstone dealer. Maybe my client in the United States wants aquamarine today, so I'll buy from Dennis.
Yeah.
Maybe next month they'll want Sarvite, so I'll buy from CT. Maybe the next, after 4 months. So I mean, am I meant, before my license is renewed, am I meant to go to people that I'm not sure what the market will want?
Right.
The demand will be different. It's fashion, it's lux. It depends. It's driven by the external market.
Okay.
Right. So those kind of like statements that go around what is actually within the regulations is what really kind of makes it. So ease of licensing, such that as a gemstone dealer or miner, I know that if I start this business, the fact that I haven't made sufficient sales according to the director of whoever of mines, etc., watching my words again very carefully, that I will still be able to renew my license and keep working and making my business and make it successful. Rome was not built by a day. There's no I'm going to enter this trade today and by the end of the year I've made 1 million sales, X amount of sales, and therefore you can renew my license.
What's the odds, really? I mean, consider which other industries has so many hurdles that are cast in its path in its attempt to simply actualize what it is that it's supposed to do. You just randomly pick one. You won't find one so easily. So why is it that this particular one, every time you speak about it, you're talking about hurdles?
See, it's because it is the how technical it is. It's gemstones. It's not bread, it's not milk, it's gemstones. And the value attached to it, there's a technicality that comes to the valuation of a gemstone that if we don't have it in country, then it means that we will be struggling.
So,
for example, and we, if for example, you need to capacitate and you have someone who wants to do value addition and they want to bring in someone from Thailand who wants to train cutters, our work permit now has gone up to 1 million. So how are we even promoting value addition? I mean, even that skill set that you're saying, to bring them in to be able to capacitate, already we are cut off. As a person who is in the industry, it's lack of understanding and capacity of the subsector. We don't have the right professionals. And
yet it is a potentially salvaging sector for the areas that we talked about in terms of economic independence.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and one would beg to ask, so there is the failure of the government in making sure that things are right. But to you as subsector holders in this area, say you mine from Taveta County, you go to their grounds, you take whatever it is you need and you go to business. What is your responsibility to the residents of Taveta in terms of giving back to the society? Because one would ask, why come to my land, take away and not give back?
Don't forget, within the regulations and the levies that you pay, there's what actually then goes to county that is meant to, facilitate and address that particular issue. But then, of course, as individual companies who are in that area, then it's upon each individual company and the CSR initiatives that they'll put in within the communities that they're in. And so that, it's that. But then in terms of the regulations, there is what goes to county in terms of levies and taxes.
Okay. What does it look like? In about a minute, what does it look like when, of course, the responsibility of, individual businesses to government? We know what that is. But what would it look like? A properly regulated sector and people being able to do business in an easy or just a, ease of doing business then is embraced. What would it look like?
So, for me, I hope it's something that we can achieve in my lifetime, Kenya has the ability to be the gemstone hub or gateway to Africa for gemstones. Kenya has a hard-earned reputation for being a good and business destination, right? And so ease of doing business, number one, would be an open door policy. Places like Thailand, Sri Lanka, Israel, the reason they have lots of those countries are known for their gemstone centers and conferences is because they have an open door policy. It's something that I think State Department needs to look at in terms of regionally being able to bring gemstones in, looking at realizing value on export and what is actually leaving the country. We'd realize a lot more, because a lot more people and buyers would come to Kenya if they know by coming to Kenya they have access to the rest of Africa.
Indeed. It's been enlightening to be able to get into this subsector, and hopefully the conversations that we can, continue highlighting. Alice Muthama is the director at Rockland Jewelers, and she's been our guest this hour. Thank you so much for being here.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your